to this podcast for Easter Day in the Holy Week series, All Shall Be Well. We have followed the journey of Jesus through his passion, his death, and come today to his resurrection. In doing this, we draw upon the writings of 14th century mystic Julian of Norwich. Easter Day brings new light and new perspectives. A new light is shed upon creation and fallen humanity as the resurrection reveals that death is not the end of the road, that the darkness of human suffering and death are not the last word from God. A new vista is opened up as human limitations are transformed by the power of resurrection life. Jesus' disciples find a renewed energy and hope. Julian of Norwich is in some ways strangely quiet about the resurrection, but the renewal of energy and hope infuses her writing as insights emerge, bringing new perspectives, energy and hope in the midst of her grappling with human reality with God in prayer. Today, in this final meditation of our series, we continue with the parable that we began yesterday. Having looked at it from the perspectives of the servant, today we look at how the parable helps us see God's perspective. The Lord and the servant. The parable of the Lord and the servant opens with a positive and loving relationship between the two of them. The servant, though, in hastening to do his Lord's will, falls and is significantly injured. Yesterday we dwelt on the effect of these injuries as a way of understanding our human condition. But Julian takes this parable and its meaning a lot further. The servants' limitations meant that the Lord's view of their condition couldn't be seen. But Julian is given insight into their Lord's gaze. How does the loving Lord look upon the fallen servant? The resurrection insight that comes to her is that the Lord looked on the servant with pity, not with blame. The servant's fears of the Lord's anger are revealed to be groundless. She goes on to describe more of the Lord's view. All this time, his loving Lord looks upon him most tenderly, and now with a double aspect, one outward, very meekly and mildly, with great compassion and pity. And this belonged to the first part. The other was inward, more spiritual, and this was shown with the direction of my understanding towards the Lord. And I was brought again to see how greatly he rejoiced over the honourable rest and nobility which by his plentiful grace he wishes for his servant and will bring to him. So Julian invites us to enjoy the Lord's perspective, to see Jesus' resurrection as revealing this loving gaze of God that is deeply compassionate rather than judgmental. Not only is the Lord's gaze compassionate, but it holds great promise. The promise of honours to come for the servant. When Mary Magdalene encounters the risen Jesus at the tomb, he calls her by name, Mary. She responds, Master. As she gazes into his eyes, does she see his love and compassion, the pity and no blame? Does she get a glimpse of his desire to bestow honours on her? Can you let yourself gaze into the eyes of the risen Christ, who calls your name and gazes upon you with loving compassion, with the promise of honours to come for you? Julian is given more insight into the servant in this parable, that the servant is both symbolic of Adam and of all humanity, but also of Christ, whose fall was to become human, to take upon himself the limitations of human nature. And the honour for the servant Christ is his resurrection that is bringing this hope for all humankind. Julian ponders all this, and in the last chapter brings some concluding insights on the meaning of this journey that she has been on. For the time that it was revealed, I desired many times to know what was our Lord's meaning, and 15 years after and more I was answered in spiritual understanding, and it was said, What? Do you wish to know your Lord's meaning in this thing? Know it well. Love was his meaning. Who reveals it to you? Love. What did he reveal to you? Love. Why does he reveal it to you? For love. Remain in this, and you will know more of the same. So I was taught that love is our Lord's meaning. In this love we have our beginning, and all this shall we see in God without end. So Julian shares her awareness of the heart of God, an awareness that comes from the journey of her life, the journey of the life of Jesus, a journey that incorporated falling, suffering, and death, and rising and a transforming hope. A journey for her that involved much prayer and reflection. And so she comes to the point where in it all she encourages, in the midst of the mix of falling and rising, to seek the highest truth. In falling and in rising, she writes, we are always preciously protected in one love, for we do not fall in the sight of God, and we do not stand in our own sight. And both of these are true as I see it. But the contemplating of our Lord God is the higher truth. May the risen Christ contemplate you this Easter day. I hope that you have found this Holy Week series helpful in your own journey with Jesus. I would be delighted to receive your feedback, which you can give on my website www.soulspark.online/Holy Week 2021, where Holy Week 2021 is one word, all lowercase. You can also sign up for my mailing list to be kept informed of news, resources, and future online offerings. In the meantime, can I wish you a joyful Easter season as you continue in the contemplation of the higher truth, the contemplation of the risen Christ, of you, looking with love, compassion, and joy.